Door, and I'm just excited. I met Sherri a few months ago. We had a district meeting, and I met her there, and was just looking forward to this day to be able to hear what God's laying upon her heart and her plans, and so let's give her our undivided attention as she comes and shares with us today. She comes from our church in Weedville, and so she is one of our own. She's on our district, and we certainly want to support her and remember her in our prayers. So Sherri, you come and share with us what God has placed upon your heart.
Well, good morning, church. It's so good to be with you today. This morning you're going to see some pictures of Ecuador. I was just recently there for a week, the end of February, and so you'll just see some of the pictures as I talk. I thought before I get started, we would just give some praise and glory to God. He's done some great things in my life, and I'm sure that he's done great things in your life. And even if you feel like you're struggling, it's still good to give praise to God because he's doing something remarkable in the unseen. And when we give praise to him, it just seems like his floodgates open, and he just reassures us of his love for us. So we're going to do something that they do in the Ecuadorian church. It's a little cheer just to give praise to God. It requires some participation, but I have all the confidence in the world in you. You're going to only have to say 2 words, so I'm sure you can handle this. What happens is a leader will come up forward, and the leader will say, "Who is he?" The congregation will reply, "Jesus." And then the leader will say, "And to his name," and the congregation will reply, "Glory." So your 2 words are Jesus and glory. Do you think you can handle this? All right. All right, so we're going to give this a try. Who is he?
Jesus.
And to his name?
Glory.
All right, now that was pretty good. I've had some churches that were, just a little bit better, but I think we're going to try it one more time. And just give it your all because we're just praising the God for what he's doing. After they do the cheer, they usually just give God a big round of applause, just again to further give praise and glory to him. So let's try it one more time. Who is he?
Jesus.
Oh, that was good. And to his name?
Glory.
Awesome. All right. Like Pastor Gary said, my name is Sherri Beck, and I'm from the Weedville Church. I'm a missionary with Global Partners to Ecuador, and I'm very excited about this. I've waited a long time for God to open up this door, and I'm just absolutely thrilled. God has always given me a heart for missions. I can't remember not loving missions. I grew up in a really small church, just a country church. It wasn't Wesleyan. There might have been a dozen people. We supported one missionary, and I don't remember too much what she looked like. Her name was Maxine. She had gray braids and maybe glasses, but I'll never forget the feeling I had when she would come and share about what God was doing in the mission field. She served in Haiti, so when she would come and talk about God's hand in Haiti, my heart would just pound in my chest, and I knew that missions was for me. And from that point on, anytime I heard a missionary, whether it was at that church or when I made the transition to the Wesleyan church, the same feeling happened. My heart beat in my chest, and I knew that my life would never be content without missions. After high school, I went to Edinburgh University, and I had every intention of using my program on the mission field. But during my second year, God decided that he wanted missions and ministry to be full-time. So the following fall, I transferred to Bethany Bible College, which is now Kingswood University. That's going to get some getting used to. But there I studied global ministry, and it was a great time in my life as God was just giving me a deeper burden for the world and for serving him. A part of my program, I had to do an internship overseas, which led me to Zambia, Africa. And I will tell you just a funny story about Africa, but I never thought I'd ever go to Africa because I always thought it was this dark, scary place. And when I heard that wasn't the option, it was the option to go, I was excited until I found out that they have snakes there. I don't know why it never crossed my mind that there's snakes in Africa until a missionary came to Bethany, and she's from Zambia, and she was talking about what God was doing in the field in Zambia, and one of my classmates asked if there were snakes there, and she's like, "Oh yeah, there's all sorts of snakes there," and I was kind of scared because I hate snakes. They just terrify me, and so I told everybody, you have to pray that I don't see any snakes, because if I see them, I think I might die. And it was 2 weeks before I was to leave to go to Zambia, And I was sitting in my living room watching TV with my brother, and my mom had 2 candelabras on either side of the television, and I saw something move on one of them. I'm like, what is that? That's kind of odd. So I turned on the ceiling light. It was a snake. I thought I was going to die. And I went out in the yard. I was just hyperventilating and telling God, there's no way I can go to Africa. If there's a snake here in the United States and I'm scared, there's no way I'm going to survive in Africa. And 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Zambia. And the first few days, oh, God has a sense of humor, let me tell you. We were given a tour through the village, and we walked down this one path, and the lady was giving us a tour. She's like, yeah, when you walk down this path, you might see some mambas. Okay, now let me tell you about these mambas. They're called 10-step mambas. If you get bit by one, 10 steps later, you're gone. So I was totally psyched about this. So we walk a little further down this path, and the path went down between 2 fields. And she's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's cobras in these fields. I'm like, wow, it just keeps getting better and better. I just, that was the path I was going to be walking multiple times throughout the week. And there were snakes on them. Whoa, let me tell you, I prayed every single time I had to go to that village that I would not see any snakes. And I was also taking a couple classes at the Bible College in Zambia. And the first day, one of the classes, it was for African traditional religions. And on the syllabus, it said that we were going to go on a field trip to visit this snake tree. And apparently, it's cursed, and there's all these snakes that come in and out of this tree. And the girl I was doing my internship with me, she just saw that, looked at me, and started laughing because she knew of my fear. And I just prayed, God, make a miracle happen, because I don't think I can handle this. And God is so good, because wouldn't you know, that trip was canceled. And I praise God greatly for that. But silly as this all sounds, God knew that it might sound silly to somebody else, but it was important to me. And for the 3.5 months I was in Zambia, I did not see one snake. I was with groups of people that said, oh my goodness, did you see that snake over there? And I was like, praise the Lord, no, I didn't. It was just, God was so good to me, and he was so faithful. And he just showed his love for me by protecting me from seeing these snakes. And the time in Zambia was just awesome. God deepened my heart for the world and gave me a love of other cultures. It was kind of funny because I was a minority in Africa because I'm white and they're all black. And skin color never fazed me. And I kind of forgot that I was white when I was in Africa. Not that I'm like this hip girl or anything, but I forgot that colors just diminish. That's how God connects hearts, regardless of color. And we went to some place, it was around Livingston, and there was all these white people. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all the white people. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm white too. but it's just neat how God is able to, connect hearts regardless of the culture, regardless of our color. He's the God of it all. And it's just remarkable what God did in my heart. I graduated from Bethany in May 2002, and I was convinced that as soon as I graduated, I would head off into the mission field. And that wasn't the case. I landed back in Weedville, which I never thought would happen. I thought once I got out of Weedville, I would never come back. And God just laughed and said, you just wait and see. So I went back to Weedville, and I'm so thankful for my home church. They've been so good to me over the years and been so patient with me. But they gave me many opportunities to participate in ministry there. I was first helping out with youth program, and then I made the transition to children's ministry around 2003, 2004 as junior church director. And at that point in my life, I was convinced children's ministry was not for me. I loved kids, but they just tried my patience, and I told God, you know what, I'm never going to work with kids. God just laughed again. And in 2006, my church was going to launch a preschool. And the pastor called me into his office one Sunday morning, and he's like, listen, we would like you to consider being the preschool director at the church. And I told him, absolutely not. You've got to be crazy. I love kids. I'm not a children's ministry person. He goes, will you pray about it and see how God directs you? Wish he would never told me that. No, really, I'm glad that he did tell me that, because the next week, it was awful. It was totally awful because I kept telling God, no way I'm going to do this because I'm not a children's ministry person. And it was just awful. And whenever I said, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it. And all of a sudden, peace came, and I knew that that's what God wanted me to do. And that was the best thing that God could have ever done for me. When I got involved in the preschool, and God gave me a deep, deep love for children's ministry. It is one of my favorite things to do. Around the same time I was starting preschool, we were rebirthing our VBS program, and God gave me a burden to do this. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I trusted God to do something miraculous through me, because I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. And through doing VBS and Wednesday Night Kids program and preschool, God just overwhelmed me with a love for kids. And VBS is my favorite thing. I've done it for 6 years now, and I love everything about it. I love the planning that goes into it, and I love the actual week with the kids. God just seems to do something remarkable through that week. It was fall of 2009. I was thinking about VBS because that's how much I love VBS. It was October, and I remember just thinking, okay, God, what are we going to do this year or the next summer? And there was something that was bothering me about VBS. I love VBS, but sometimes the cost of the curriculum, it just doesn't seem right sometimes, because programs just cost so much. And I was telling about God about all this, and we use group material, so there's always a mission emphasis in it. But it seemed like we invested more money into the curriculum and supplies than we did in the mission project, and that just seemed wrong to me, being a missions girl. And I was telling God about this, and he's like, well, what do you want to do about it? And I was like, well, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And he's like, well, I want you to write curriculum. Okay, God, I'll write curriculum. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll write it and I'll trust you. Well, the months that followed when I would write the curriculum for my church, I just loved it. God opened my eyes to his word in a way that I had never seen before. And when I'd get up from writing, I would just be in awe of who God was. And I was thankful for this time, because I was able to discover a gift that was God had given me. And when we went through the VBS, it was summer of 2010. And it was remarkable to see the kids respond to the VBS. On our last night, we talked about the Great Commission, and this is just awesome to me. We talked about, how God has a specific purpose for us. And I gave the kids an invitation that if they felt that God had a special purpose for their life, that God wanted to use them to come forward. And there was 12 kids that I've known in the church forever that said, I feel like God has a plan for my life, and he wants to use me. And it doesn't get any better than that. And after VBS was over, I just felt like, okay, God, what's next? What else can I do in Weedville? I feel like I've done everything I can do. Is there something you want me to do? I'm ready for whatever. And the message that God kept repeating to me over and over again was the message God spoke to Abram in Genesis 12:1, where it says, leave your country, your father's house, your relatives, and go to a land that you've never been to. And I thought, God, is it time? I've been waiting so long. Is it really time? And after I asked him, there was silence. And I didn't get that. This went on for about a month and a half. I just kept asking God, is it time to go? Is it time to go? And there was silence every single time. It was late September 2010. And God asked me the question I've waited my whole life for, will you go? And I wanted to be absolutely sure that this wasn't something that I manifested in my own heart. I wanted to be sure it was of God. And so for 2 weeks, I didn't tell a soul, and I just prayed and prayed. And with each passing day, the desire just built. And God gave me a deep excitement, and I knew it was time to go. I started the process with Global Partners, and at that point, I had thought that I was to go to Japan. And with talking with Global Partners about the church in Japan and my gifts in ministry, they were concerned that it wasn't going to be a match, and they wanted me to be placed in a country that would be able to use my gifts. And they didn't tell me who they were talking with. They kind of kept me in the dark, but I just trusted God. God put me in the perfect spot. And they were talking with a field director in Ecuador, Tom Hines, and he thought it was a match. And when they told me that Ecuador is the country that they were looking at, they said, we talked to Tom about your gifts, and he said that almost to the effect that, we've been praying for someone with her exact gifts to come to the field. And God, all along, had been preparing a spot for me in Ecuador. And a lot of my ministry in Ecuador will be children's ministry. So God had been preparing me for the field in Ecuador. And God just is so awesome. I was officially appointed last January as a missionary to Ecuador, and it was exciting. It felt like a dream was coming true. And the past year has been remarkable to watch God work in my life, and to watch him connect hearts and to build up a team for me as support. I'm very excited about journeying to Ecuador. It's going to be a remarkable time. In December, I just started praying and asking God to give me an opportunity to actually go to Ecuador because I hadn't been there. And I was struggling with getting a burden for that place and getting a vision for what the ministry was going to be about. Like, I knew I was going to be doing children's ministry and probably some women's ministry, but I wasn't sure how that was all going to play out. So I just started praying, God, if you want me to go, you need to work out all the details. I knew I could take some money out of my fund at Global Partners for the trip, but I preferred not to. So I said, God, if you want me to go, please provide. And I have friends from college I had saw in August, and when I saw them in August, they said, Sherri, we're not going to be able to support you financially, but you have our prayers. In January, one day, I was just thinking about going to Ecuador, and I was like, God, will you provide? And that day I got home from work and checked my mail, and I had a Christmas card from my friends that I saw in August. And Jen, the wife, she had told me, she's like, when you get a Christmas card, just let us know. And I thought that was kind of odd, but I thought, well, maybe she just wanted to, because she usually sends pictures. I thought, well, maybe that's just why. Well, that's not why. Inside her Christmas card was a check for $1,400. And it was above and beyond what I needed to go to Ecuador. And I was just blown away because, sometimes we doubt, okay, God, will you provide? And we're hesitant. We don't fully believe that he will. And never doubt, because God, he knows our needs. He always takes care of us. And he'll provide exactly what we need, and sometimes above and beyond, because he likes to bless his children. And it was just exciting for me to see him provide. He gave me an opportunity to go to Florida to visit some churches. And after that, I was able to go to Ecuador for a week. This is just a little thing of, I call it a I love you gift from God. So I was traveling from Florida to Ecuador, and I flew from Tampa to Miami, and I had an overnight layover. Well, I had a hotel room, and I was excited because I got a really good deal on this hotel room. And I get to the hotel, and they're like, you got a free upgrade. I'm like, well, that's awesome, free upgrade. Yeah, it was a free upgrade, that's for sure. It was a double king suite. Now, what am I, one person, going to do with this double king suite? And I'm like, well, what bedroom am I going to sleep in tonight? But I never expected that. But God just said, you know what, Sherri, I love you. And I wish that I could have had a party, but I was too far away from anybody to come and have a party. But God just showed his love for me through that. I was thrilled when I got to Ecuador at the end of February. God just did something in my heart that I'm so thankful for. I love the heart that he's giving me for missions, because anywhere he takes me, I feel at home. And from day one in Ecuador, that's how I felt. I felt at home. I couldn't understand the people, but I felt at home. The first day I arrived, I had a real culture shock as we went to McDonald's for lunch, and no, it's just funny. But it was a great time. I landed in the city of Guayaquil, and there's about 4 million people that are in Guayaquil, and they took me to see one of the Wesleyan churches there, and we weren't able to go inside, but it was just neat to see the area where the church is and to see kids running around. And the missionary said there's tons of kids in this area that love to come to church, and it would be really neat if they wish that I could have been there first Sunday morning just to see the kids that came and just to get a chance to hang out with them. But that didn't happen. But I did get to meet the church leaders in Guayaquil. There's a picture somewhere, but I'm not sure. But I got to meet one of the pastors. His name is Nino, and a husband and wife team that does children's ministry. Their name is Juan Carlos and Diana. And as I was getting to know them one evening through a translator, it was just neat because I could feel God melding my heart to theirs. And I wasn't sure if God would place me in Guayaquil to minister, but I knew that if he did, I would feel comfortable doing ministry with these people. When Juan Carlos and Diana heard that I had a heart for children's ministry, they were ecstatic because they said there's tons of kids that need loved and love to know about God. And they told me, we want you to work with us. And I wanted to work with them too. And so who knows, maybe God will open up a door for me to minister with them. There's a lot of things pending right now, but maybe someday. As I was only in Guayaquil for a couple of days, and then we made the drive to the city of Cuenca. And to get to Cuenca, you had to drive through the Andes Mountains, and it was absolutely breathtaking. I don't know how anybody can say that there isn't a God, because if you look at his creation, that is evidence of his handiwork. And as we were making the 4-hour trip to Cuenca, it didn't seem like 4 hours because there was so much to take in. And I remember telling the missionaries, I wish I could just videotape it all in my head and play it back later because it was breathtaking. And the song that kept playing through my heart was, "How Great Thou Art." You know, he is so great and so majestic. And I just, if possible, felt deeper in love with the Savior because of his creation. In Cuenca, I had some time to spend with the missionaries, and as we talked about what the church is in Ecuador, I could just feel God deepening my love for Ecuador. The church in Ecuador is fairly new. The field is about 10 years old. So the church is very much in its infancy stage. There's not a lot of structure. There's not LBAs established in churches. There's no district level, or of course there's no general level. But the leaders have a desire to see God's kingdom grow. When the church was first established in 2000, there was 4 churches, 3 in the city of Guayaquil and 1 in Cuenca. And the leaders that were set in place at that time, they were older leaders, so there was not a lot of flexibility with how they wanted to lead the church. And because of that, one of the churches closed, and the leaders were asked to step down because the churches just weren't growing. The current leaders in there now want to see God's kingdom come. They want to see Ecuador reached for Christ. And right now there's 2 churches in Guayaquil and 1 in Cuenca, and they want to do more pioneer ministry there. And so my role, whenever I actually get to Ecuador, September 2013, will be basically to assist and support the national church leaders and helping develop programs for children and women's ministry in the churches, and just to strengthen them, and whatever else is necessary, because in missionaries, work is not limited to one thing. It's very broad, and I'm excited about the possibility of working in current churches or even pioneering churches. It'll be something completely new for me, but I know that God will be in the midst, and he is in control, and he will equip me for whatever lies ahead. And so I'm very excited about the field in Ecuador and the ministry there. While I was in Ecuador, I was able to attend church in Cuenca, and it was exciting for me to go. One of the things I struggled with the whole time I was there was the language barrier. I wanted to be able to communicate, but I wasn't able to, really. And I was kind of nervous about going to church. I wasn't sure if that would be uncomfortable for me because it was going to be in a different language for me. But God is the God of all languages, and even though I didn't understand the songs that were being sung or the testimonies that are being spoken, I felt God drawing my heart and drawing me closer to my brothers and sisters in Ecuador. And I didn't feel like that my spirit was being hindered in worship. I felt like it was being enhanced almost. And I felt so blessed to be a part of their congregation that morning. I did have a time to spend with kids. It was basically crowd control because I can't speak the language. And I was kind of nervous because I love kids and I love talking with them, and I wasn't sure how that was going to go. I sat down at a table with two little girls that were coloring, and God somehow helped me to communicate so I could color a page with these two girls. They were talking up a storm to me, but it didn't bother them that I couldn't understand or talk back to them. They didn't care as long as someone was listening. And as we colored the page, I had a blast. And I counted circles with them in Spanish, because that I could do. And it was so fun just to be with the kids and to have God give me a love for them. And I can't wait to go back. A year from August, it just seems like forever. But I know that God has a purpose and he has a plan and he has a perfect time for me to be there. And when that time comes, it's going to be remarkable. Before I actually get to Ecuador, I have to go to language school, which I'm so thankful for. I will be in Costa Rica for 1 year, and I'm excited for that. I'll be able to live with a Costa Rican family, so that'll help with the immersion and learning the language. And then once I'm in Ecuador, I will continue to learn the language. There will be some minor differences between Costa Rica and Ecuador. But I'm just hoping that God gives me a partner to communicate with in Ecuador so I can learn the differences and be able to communicate the gospel effectively. It's just awesome to see how God has prepared me for this. And I think what's even more awesome is that I don't have to go alone. I can take as many people with me as possible. I'm so thankful for the team that God has given me already, the prayer partners and the people that are supporting me financially. And this morning I want to ask you, will you go with me? I want to take you with me. I want you to journey with me. I don't want to be selfish and go through this experience alone. I want to share it with you. So I would love it if you'd be able to go with me as a prayer partner. As you know, prayer is power. And it opens up doors that wouldn't otherwise be open. And so I just ask that you would be praying for me. You know, the enemy does not want God's gospel to be spread. He does not want us to be used for God's glory. And he does not want me to go to Ecuador. So please pray for my protection now as I'm preparing to go and when I'm on the field. One of the things, I'm just going to give you a couple specific things you can be praying for me. One of the things that I've been going through the past few months has been some back problems. It just kind of came and it was very intense, and I damaged a disc in my back, and for the past 4 months I've been trying to recover and to heal, and thankfully I'm on the upper side of it, but it still gives me pain from time to time. But just pray that God would touch my body. I've talked with other team members that are actually going to Ecuador, and they've experienced similar problems before actually getting to language school. And we believe that it's just the enemy trying to slow us down. So just be praying that the devil would just flee and that God's healing would just continue to permeate my body. Please pray for my finances. There's been some months that have been really slow, and the devil likes to use that to discourage me, but you know what? I serve the King, and he owns it all. And I've just been praying that God would direct it my way, and I've marveled at his hand of provision, and I know I'm very confident that he will continue to provide. So just be praying for God's provision. Pray for my family. There's some family members that are having a hard time with me going. I have a cousin, she keeps saying, "You're leaving me." Well, I'm not leaving you. It's not like we're never going to talk, but I need to do God's work. So please be praying for my family that God would just help them as I go. Another way that you can go with me is by partnering with me financially. I wish that missions work was free. But like I said, God owns it all, and he uses his people to provide. And if God would be laying on your heart to give through faith promises, just listen to him. And I know sometimes he gives us amounts that seem completely outrageous. But God is the God of it all. And I want to give you one short story of one of my faith promise givers. It's a couple that I've known for a long time. And when they made their faith promise and I was made known about it, I was blown away at the amount. I was just so touched. About a month and a half after that faith promise was made, the wife, she came to me and she's like, Sherri, I just want to let you know that when we made that faith promise, we had no idea how we were going to meet it, but that's the amount we felt God was laid on our hearts to give. I want to let you know that God lowered our mortgage, and the difference was our faith promise. And that is how God works. When we are obedient and trust him completely, he will always give us what we need. So if God ever leads you to give to like myself or another missionary, don't ever doubt God, because he knows what you need and he will provide for all your needs. And I'm so thankful for how he's provided for me. I just can't praise him enough for that. So this morning again, I just want to ask you, will you go with me? I hope you will, in one of those ways, because I want you to come. I want you to experience this journey with me. And I do send out a monthly newsletter. If you'd like to receive that, you can sign up. I have a sign-up list on my table, and I would love to keep you informed. And you are always welcome to respond to that newsletter and let me know how I can be praying for you too. Because this is a relationship, this is a partnership, and I care about you and your needs. So I want to be praying for you too. So just feel free to let me know anytime how I can be praying for you. I'm just so thankful for this opportunity to come and be with you this morning, to share my heart with you. And I just pray that your hearts would be encouraged by what God is doing in your own lives, and that you would see his hand. And if you are struggling, just know God is doing something really great in your lives. So thankful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherri, for coming and sharing your heart with us today. I'm going to ask that we stand together. Actually, before we stand together, we're going to take a love offering, okay, for Sherri and what she's doing. And trust that you'll give. You heard her heart. You know her desire is to serve God. And so let's give accordingly. If the ushers will come, please. Dick, would you pray for this love offering, please?